Welcome to Aston Means Business, a podcast from Aston Business School. My name's Steve Dyson and I'm a journalist who's interviewing some of the UK's top business academics here at Aston. This podcast has been going since October 2019 and there are now more than 45 previous episodes that you can find and listen to by simply Googling Aston Means Business. Today's episode is going to explore a module called the Aston Global Advantage that's part of many of the master's degrees here at Aston Business School, teaching students the core skills that they'll need in their future careers. We're going to explore this subject with Dr. Jude Preston, a lecturer in the Work and Organisation Department at Aston Business School. Hello, Jude.
Hello there, and thank you for inviting me to take part in this podcast.
No problems at all, Jude. Let's start by asking more about who you are. What I want to learn here, Jude, is what you were doing before you came to Aston Business School and what you're doing here now.
Well, I've got a funny old career. I'm not by any means what you might call a career academic. I'm now, at the moment, a lecturer in the Work and Organisation Department, but this is quite a recent thing, relatively speaking. In fact, I left school at 16 without any qualifications at all. And it wasn't until I reached the grand old age of 45 that when I couldn't get a job that I felt I was capable of because I didn't have a degree. At that point, I thought, okay, so if that's what I need to do to get on, then that is what I will do. So from that point, I did a bachelor's degree in human resource management and business. I did that by distance learning. It took me 4 years and I worked full time alongside it. And at the end of that, I thought, I'm going to be able to get a job now. I'm going to get a really good job. But it didn't quite work out like that. So I didn't get the job that I wanted. So I went to an open day at Aston University to have a look at a master's course and absolutely fell in love with this idea of carrying on with my learning. So I went to Aston and did a human resources management MSc. And then went out back into industry and hated it passionately. I'd got the learning bug. So there was only one thing for it. I came back to Aston and did my PhD. And I completed that in 2020. And I suppose I was very fortunate because I also got a graduate teaching assistant post alongside this, which meant that whilst I was doing my PhD, I was also doing a lot of teaching. So when I got that elusive, as I felt it was going to be, title of doctor, because it's like that when you're doing a PhD. It's just a long, long, lonely tunnel, and at the end of it is this far-off light. But when I got there, I'd also got quite a lot of higher education teaching experience as well. But prior to me coming into academia, I did lots of different roles. For many years, I was actually a refrigeration and air conditioning engineer. I worked at the Rep Theatre in Birmingham as head of sales.
Oh, yes.
And I, for about 3 years, ran a nursing home in Staffordshire. I hasten to add I was not involved nursing the patients. That would not have been a good idea at all. But that was where I really started to get interested in human resources management, because part of my job was to organise and to deliver some of the training for the staff in the nursing home. But after that, I went on to the railway and I worked for a train operating company. And while I was there, somebody discovered I was good at teaching and coaching other people. So they put me into a secondment, which actually lasted for about 5 or 6 years. And it was at the end of this that I came to that point, that critical tipping point when my secondment ended, that I wanted to carry on. I wanted to carry on in those more demanding, more challenging roles, and I couldn't do it without that academic career to underpin it all. So that's how I got to where I am. Some people have often asked me, do you wish you'd done it the other way around? But to be perfectly honest, Steve, I don't, because that experience in industry is absolutely invaluable. Because when I'm teaching students, I can use experience from my own working life, anecdotal evidence, and this sort of thing to really bring the teaching to life, to explain to them, to help them to appreciate how what they're learning it is relevant, it does matter, and it will be useful to them. My teaching experience has been mainly in human resources management, with an awful lot about learning and development, but I've also taught leadership and different other types of human resources management topics, such as organisation development, organisational behaviour, and various other things. At the moment, I'm heavily involved with the Aston Global Advantage. For my research interests, I empathise with students who were not, let's just say they're not typical students. So I'm talking about older students. My PhD looked at managing an older workforce. And so it's those challenges for those older students. For students who have learning differences, I don't call them learning difficulties, but learning differences such as ADHD or autism, and that type of non-typical student. And I'm passionate about helping them to really get the most from their higher education and their university experience. The Aston Global Advantage is our professional and personal development programme. We've had it for a few years, about 8 years now, and it originally started as a non-credit bearing module, but we've now made it credit bearing, and it has become such an integral part of all of these, the master's courses and the Master of Laws courses in the business school. And the way it works, it runs for the whole year. If you don't know, master's courses typically last for 1 year if they're full time. And so the Aston Global Advantage spans the whole of that year. And there are different activities going on in each of the 3 terms, alongside the taught elements that the students are undertaking. And of course, in the final stages, their dissertation. There are an awful lot of different activities. Some of the things are online, some of them are face-to-face. They have group challenges. We bring in quite high calibre, high prestige local organisations to work with the students and set them challenges. And we also give them an opportunity in their final term to experience one of our 4 streams, which give them the opportunity to study abroad or to do work experience or various other things. Now, the purpose of it, as it suggests, it's to give the students the opportunities to develop what we call those transferable and employability skills. Now, you might hear them called soft skills. I personally don't like that term. There is nothing soft about things like communication and teamwork and collaboration and professionalism and work ethic. These actually are often the most important skills. If you talk to a human resources professional and say to them, would you rather employ somebody who has got those transferable and employable skills or the technical skills, they will 9 times out of 10 go for those transferable employability skills, because those are often the ones that are much harder to develop. Technical skills you can teach to somebody who's got a reasonable level of intelligence and ability, but those interpersonal skills are often the hardest. So that the sooner a student starts to develop these, the better, really. And we aim to have a situation is that when our students leave Aston with their lovely, bright, shiny, brand new master's degree that they've worked so hard for, that when they are trying to go and get those fantastic graduate jobs that they're all after, that what the Aston Global Advantage will have done is given them the edge in the employability market. So it enhances their employability by teaching and boosting those skills. The basis for it all, we structure it around the Aston Competency Wheel, which covers 10 professional competencies. And these include digital technology, the leadership of yourself and other people, building and growing relationships, because of course networking is so critically important today, career management. Can you actually manage your own career to optimize the opportunities? Creativity and innovation, of course, communication, and as I previously mentioned, professionalism and work ethic, and teamwork and collaboration, but also critical thinking and problem solving. And one of the big things that we're so aware of here at Aston is global and intercultural fluency, because a huge proportion of our master's students come from all over the world. We have students from every single continent joining us here. And this actually becomes an amazing hotbed, if you like, of opportunity for students to learn about different cultures, norms, traditions, and the way, importantly, the way in which people from different cultures work. Because when they do get out there into the world of work, they're not going to be able to choose their own team. They're not going to be able to handpick the people they work with, people that they're comfortable with. They're going to have to simply get on with it and work with lots of people. And in today's increasingly global world of work, this means that the likelihood is that they are going to be working either face to face or remotely with lots of people from different cultural backgrounds. So this is a skill that is really, really critical for them.
What's the detail of how you teach a mixture of very practical and almost social skills that I can't imagine being taught in a classroom alone?
You're absolutely right, Steve. They're not taught in the classroom alone. In term one, students have quite intense career management lessons, sessions, because they need to be thinking right at the beginning of their masters about what they're going to be doing afterwards. So that feeds into that career management competence. But we also have a series of 8 sessions on the joy of teams. And you'd be surprised, everybody thinks they can work in a team until they actually get out there and try to do it. And what we talk about here are the things that are needed in order for teams to work effectively. Things like trust and leaving your assumptions at the door, and learning to accept other people and respecting them for what they are and for the way in which they work. But this is classroom learning. But at the same time, they have the business challenge. Now, the business challenge is usually set, but it is set by a prominent local organisation. To give you an idea, for the last 2 years, the challenge has been set by the Commonwealth Games, and the focus has been on a sustainable legacy to those games. And this year, we've been working with Birmingham Pride, and we've been looking at ways in which the Birmingham Pride, which is ultimately a charitable organisation, how they can further improve their reach to help disadvantaged members of the LGBTQ plus community. Now, in order to do this, the students are put into multicultural, multidisciplinary teams. They don't get to choose who they work with because, like we've said, that's not like real life. And as far as we can make it, the Aston Global Advantage has to replicate real life. So they get put into a team and they have to go away and produce a recorded presentation, which involves, first of all, doing lots of research, discussing how they're going to approach it, but it also it encourages them to think about and to, in some respects, to challenge their values, to think about whether or not and how their values will actually work in that multicultural, diverse society in which we have to do business. So it really is opening doors to them to think about, how am I going to do this once I've left Aston, when I'm really out at work? And of course, this presentation that they have to produce, this recorded presentation, it's graded, so it counts towards their final grade for their degree. So it's important to them. Now, we do ask the organisation to come and have a look at the highest scoring ones and to choose the overall winning team. So there's a competitive element as well to this, and the students love that. Now, in the second term, we have a programme-specific activity. So we've got lots and lots and lots of master's degrees, probably over 20 who contribute or who take part in the AGA, the Aston Global Advantage. And to give you an idea, there's marketing, human resources management. We have a couple of psychology degrees, business and management, business analytics, finance, accounting, law. And that's just to give you an idea. But each of these programs, the program directors work with their staff, and what they do in the second term is they put together a program of practical activities which the students will give them the opportunity to apply their theoretical learning. And so some examples, for example, with the Human Resources Management degree, during that term, the students have a go at doing things like interviewing people and officiating in trade union negotiations, managing harassment and bullying and grievance hearings and these sorts of things, so that when they go out into the world and they're in an interview situation and the interviewer sort of says, have you actually got any experience? They have got some real experience of applying their learning. To give you, some of the other things that they do, some of the degrees also will carry with it the opportunity to get a Prince 2 project management qualification or a diploma from the Institute of Digital Marketing. And these are all value added. So not only in term 2 are the students learning how their taught knowledge, their theoretical knowledge fits into the world of work, but in many instances they are also obtaining a professional, nationally, sometimes internationally recognised qualification alongside it. So that's term 2. And in term 3, they undertake one of 4 streams. Now, by this stage, they've done all the taught side of their degree. So we'd like to think that they've got more time on their hands. They probably haven't, because they're also researching and writing their dissertation. But they can choose between going and studying abroad at one of our partner institutions. They can do a period of work experience or work-based experience, and that can take many formats when we talk about that. They can do a business simulation, which is not as soft and easy as it might sound. And they can also do what we call our Pipe Club, which is product, intellectual property and entrepreneurship, which gives them all of the knowledge that they need to start up their own small business.
It sounds absolutely fascinating and very detailed. And employers must find your postgraduates with those skills and extra qualifications. They must find them very attractive. Tell me about where some of your former students are now working and how the Aston Global Advantage module has helped them in those roles.
Sure. Just some very quick examples. We have one student who's now a contract development officer at Highways England. And, he made the comment when he was telling me this, he was really excited because he got this. And what he was saying was that his experience of working within the teams, those aspects of the Aston Global Advantage, actually running projects, because what he'd done is when we put them into those teams, he had taken over the leadership of some of those and actually done the project management side. So he is now project managing the contract development side for Highways England. Similarly, one of my human resources management students is now working for NACRO, the ex-offenders charity, as a learning and development coordinator. And she made the comment that she'd had to do those presentations and it was really important that she did them well. But the skills that she learned there, of course, for most graduate jobs, as part of the interview and selection process, you will be asked to do some sort of presentation. But she knew how to do it. She knew how to present herself and those sorts of things. Similarly, one of the students went and did her work experience for Stream 2 for Cross Country Trains, who are a train operating company operating out of Birmingham. And they were so delighted with her that they offered her a full-time job for when she'd completed her master's. So it was only for the fact that she had that opportunity to go and work with them that it introduced her to the company. So that's just a small example. But what we aim for is that when the students are in that selection and recruitment process, that they can evidence their skills. Not only do we give them these skills, but the assessments that we have them do force them to think about how are they going to articulate these skills during that recruitment and development process. Because if you're not able to explain to an interviewing team, a prospective employer, what you can do and how this can be of value, to that organisation, then you might as well not have those skills as far as giving you an advantage at that point. So as part of that, they do also have a lot of experience, and we do get them to think about how are you going to use this proactively during that process to prove to employers that you really are the person that they need.
And Jude, what would you say is really special about Aston Global Advantage in terms of comparing it with other universities? What I mean is, the resulting skills from the Aston Global Advantage sound great, but isn't that kind of output expected from many other business schools around the UK and abroad? What's special about what Aston are doing here?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Steve. The vast majority of universities have some sort of professional development program. What makes us unique is what we've actually developed as a complete, cohesive and integrated whole. So, for example, when I talked about the opportunity to go and study abroad, we have relationships with over 70 universities in the world. It's not just a handful. And the students can choose to go for just a short summer school of perhaps a month, right the way up to doing a double degree. And they don't actually have to pay for that except for a registration fee. So, if a student is thinking of more of an academic career going forward rather than a career in industry, that might help them to demonstrate their commitment to their academic learning. We've got so many networks with different organisations and this type of thing, and we work so closely as a team within the university. So the careers and placements team work alongside the Aston Global Advantage to make sure that we are supporting the students all the way. Because there is so much flexibility about the Aston Global Advantage, to an extent, students can tailor their own programme. You've got to, we typically have between 1,000 and 1,500 students who are taking part in the AGA, the Aston Global Advantage, every year. It's a huge number. But when you then think about the diversity, we have some students who've come straight from an undergraduate degree into a postgraduate degree. We have others who have perhaps got 15 or 20 years experience, but they're staying within their specialist field. We've got other people who, for whatever reason, they want to change their career. So what they're looking at doing is getting a qualification in a completely different discipline. We have parents who've got children at home to look after. We have people who have lots of other caring responsibilities. But the flexibility that we offer with the AGA, the Global Advantage, means that we can meet the needs of all of these people. So, if somebody has got 20 years experience as a team leader, they don't want to go out and get work experience. But what we can do, they might be thinking of doing their own startup business. And so they would opt for the Pipe Club, which would give them all of the information that they need about how to do that. So things like, if you're setting up your own startup business, what legal entity would it take, ways in which you can get capital, ways in which you can protect your intellectual property, how to get partners, how to market your product. All of these things will give them the skills that they need to do it. And it can be incredibly successful. I told you earlier about some of the students and where they've gone in terms of their destinations into work. But we have one chap, the company that he formed has been recognised by Forbes as one of the EdTech companies to watch out for. He's been a speaker at Google Campus. He's been an ambassador for Startup Britain. He's been recognised by Virgin Media Business as one of the top 30 young innovative founders in the UK. And he was featured in Bloomberg's documentary on entrepreneurial mindset. He attributes this to the experience that he received, the opportunities that he received while he was doing his master's here with us. And that has made such a difference. Of course, you've got to have the right mindset. We will encourage entrepreneurialism, and some of our degrees, in fact, many of our degrees include entrepreneurship as part of it. But you've still got to have the want to do it. You've got to have the drive and the motivation. But giving somebody the tools to actually do that and make a success of it is what we do so well.
For anyone listening, Jude, who likes the idea of the Aston Global Advantage, how can they find out more and potentially apply?
All of the information is actually available on the Aston University website, but the easy way to actually find it is to use good old Google and simply search for Aston Global Advantage, and it will then take you to the webpage. It'll tell you all about it, and then while you're in the Aston University website, you can have a look at which master's degrees we're offering. And we do offer so many business degrees linked to lots of different disciplines, so you should be able to find something that you like.
Finally, Jude, if you were talking to a group of prospective students, what are the very top, if you like, the 3 top reasons that you would give them for considering a master's that included the Aston Global Advantage?
The reasons are in the title. It is a global advantage. It doesn't matter where you've come from in the world or where you intend going afterwards. The skills and the competencies that you will learn as part of undertaking that will serve you well, regardless of whatever industry you go into, wherever you go in the world, or whatever you want to do with your life. It will give you, the second reason is that when it actually comes to getting that dream job, because that's why we're doing it, that's why you're putting your hard-earned money into your own future, you want that dream job at the end of it, but it will give you as big an advantage as it's possible to give over everybody else. There are lots and lots of business degrees, but they don't include the Aston Global Advantage, and they don't give you the experiences to talk about during that all-important recruitment and selection process. And finally, you will make friends that you will keep for the rest of your lives. You will come to Aston, and because of the fact that you're doing the Aston Global Advantage, you won't just meet the other students on your degree. You will meet many, many other students from other disciplines from all over the world, and many of them will become firm friends that will be with you for the rest of your life.
Dr. Jude Preston, lecturer in the Work and Organisation Department at Aston Business School, many thanks for taking part in this episode of Aston Means Business.
Thanks, Steve. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for having me.
And thanks to you, our audience, for listening to Aston Means Business, an original podcast series for Aston University. Remember, if you enjoyed today's episode, you can find and listen to earlier episodes by simply Googling Aston Means Business. And in a similar way, if you're interested in studying the Aston Global Advantage, just Google those words and you can find out more about the master's degrees which involve them here at Aston Business School. We'll be back soon with more interviews with some of the UK's top business academics here at Aston. Aston Means Business. Thanks for listening.